Bases dropped on a new round of Soccer's morning show. Soccer Down here. John here, you there. Thanks for coming by. Thursday means Thursday thoughts, so whatever's on your mind. We've got a busy show that kind of drifts in and out of a couple of different things this morning. There's a lot of news overseas, a lot of AM news, whether it's Euro, Premier League. There were some votes. There are some teams that really need to be concerned because of profit sustainability rules, so you might end up having like another mini transfer window. We'll get into that. And all of the other news of the morning at 9:30. We get to catch up with action in League Two. Garreth Barker, the USL Sporting Director for SSA Kings, is going to drop by at 9:30. There's some really cool stuff that happened with SSA the other day, and we'll talk about that. And that kind of ties into our first activity with the Premier League. And then there's some big action this weekend with the SSA as Birmingham comes to town, and that is on Saturday afternoon at 4 over at Marathon on the men's side. Women's side gets the nightcap. So Birmingham is coming to town to take on SSA. We'll talk to Garreth Barker about that at 9:30. We'll drift back out and discuss what's going on around the planet. And then, as always, at 10:30 on Thursdays, it means it's Thursdays with Niko Moreno from our friends at Pulso Sports on the Soccer Bar dropped by, and he gets to discuss whatever he wants to talk about. Obviously, Gonzalo Pineda, it's been a topic that Soccer Bar has picked up on, so we'll find out his thoughts on the dismissal of Gonzalo Pineda and the idea that there will be lessons learned by Gonzalo, and it will apply to his next gig, wherever that is. And I know that a lot of us are sitting here thinking that he will probably end up drifting back to the Pacific Northwest and keeping an eye on what's going on in Seattle to be the coach in waiting. It would make sense anyway. Whenever Brian Schmetzer decides he wants to retire in the year 47 or whatever, then Gonzalo will be one of the big choices coming out of the block. So once again, Garreth Barker from SSA dropping by at 9:30, and it's Niko Moreno dropping by at 10:30. Tomorrow, once again, very, very busy day when it comes to activity in the WPSL. Big matchup at Decatur High School, and it is Georgia Impact and Decatur FC. We catch up with both head coaches, and that is going to be that's going to be a fun one to kick things off from in the 9 o'clock half hour, and then the show will roll from there. And we actually will have matches to talk about, so it'll be a little bit of a mini weekend whip around, patent pending, trademark coming sooner, hopefully, rather than later. So, yeah, there's 4 matches, and it was a point that Michael Head and a couple of others made in the Twitch pitch yesterday that they're not fans of teams in Major League Soccer playing in the international window because, once again, that sets Major League Soccer apart and not in a good way. So there's 4 matches to talk about. We'll go through all of the different combinations, permutations, all the leagues, all the matchups, all the stuff going on. We'll get that in hour number 2 tomorrow as we get you ready for WPSL and everything. And also, all of our episodic programming will be released tomorrow as well. All of the USL programming that we have, Championship, W, League One, League Two. We're chasing a story out of Statesboro. Don't know if you saw this, that Tormenta is adding a unified team. So we're going to hopefully have a 1v1 involved with that. And our friends at the Marshall Islands, they have a women's coach now. And so we will catch up with her, and that'll be a 1v1 that will be released if I could get my upper plate to work. And they'll be released on the weekend as well. So our friends at the Marshall Islands taking strides and adding programs, keeping an eye on things in the 4 states. And the coach that was asked to take on the task of the women's side knows what life is like up in the 4 states, where you have the Marshallese U.S. population. And so from her time at Pittsburgh State in Kansas, she knows what the 4 states are like. And so she is now taking on the task. Katie Smith is going to be taking on the task of the women's side. So we'll catch up with her in a 1v1 tomorrow, and that'll be posted on the weekend. So morning, Alex. Morning, Bart. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get into that. Why not? We'll go ahead and discuss what is on Bart's mind this morning. Still not worried about Uruguay in Copa America. Not necessarily worried, but I think that probably what happened last night might have you worried about other teams, not necessarily, not in a bad way, not Uruguay in a competitive way. So that'll be opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com, as I completely and totally just fill up the screen with everything. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching, however you're watching us this morning, whether it's on the YouTubes, the Twitch, or on the 280-character app, as I cover up the second QR code on the screen. So you use that QR code. It gets you into Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget, use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They, in turn, take 10%, reinvest it into cool things and cool initiatives that are about the growth of the game on the youth side. So it's Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. As I sit here and try and move my fingers temporarily away from the second QR code there on the screen, covering up our friends at Alliance Nurse Corps until they're the only QR code on the screen. Last night, don't know if you saw it, but it was a matchup in front of a lot of folks at Mile High in Denver. The folks that are sponsoring it ain't sponsoring us, so it's Mile High until further notice. Uruguay took out the whooping stick, as they say here in the South, on Mexico. 3 in a hurry, 4-0 final. And it got to the point to where the fans of El Tri were doing the olays as Uruguay was completing passes in the second half. Mexico is right now a team in transition, and I think they're still trying to figure out how to transition when it comes to the veterans that you could have versus youth and how you lay it all out. And I'm sure that Chucky Lozano was sitting there and going, ha, 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 pointing his finger at the screen as he awaits his time at San Diego FC. So last night was pretty painful if you're a fan of El Tri. And I know that that Bart is not not intimidated by Uruguay. Uruguay, I think, could really mess up some folks. I think that they could they could really take the air out of your tires. I mean, they could cause the airbag to deploy inside your car. That they'll be that much of a pain in the butt. Don't know how it will end up for them, but when El Loco is there and Marcelo Bielsa is attached, anything is possible. And part of that anything was just taking Mexico out back last night. 4-0 final, and it was bad. It was just not good. I feel like Chris Myers, and that is not good. You are not safe. Yeah, it was pretty painful last night when you were staring at what was happening at the Mile High, and it doesn't get any better because the next matchup for El Tri, because it just means more, is in College Station at Kyle Field, and you're taking on Brazil. Brazil at Kyle Field, and I'd love to know how it's going to fit in there. Might be 71. I'll put that in quotation marks. I don't know how it fits in there, but okay. So you've got a friendly coming up against Brazil after getting thumped by Uruguay. Good luck on that one. That's all I'm going to say. And, yeah, it was, man, that was painful last night. So it was an adventure if you're a fan of El Tri. And I know that if you're a fan of Uruguay and the Uruguay national team with El Loco in charge, you're sitting there going, yeah, man, let's load them up. But, yeah, it was not pretty. It was not pretty at all. That was not good. Mexico is a team in transition right now. Don't know. Hopefully they know what they're transitioning to. But Kyle Field, Brazil, could be. If you thought Denver was a long day, College Station, Texas. Never thought I would use Brazil, Mexico, soccer, and College Station, Texas all in one sentence. But it's coming. And if you're a fan of El Tree, I don't know if you want to sit there and and have it coming. It's like, can we reschedule this? You look at your watch. Can we reschedule this until the platoon is better rested? Sit there. You're going, wait a minute here. I don't know if this is going to play. Yeah, it was bad. So you got that coming down the pike, and I don't mean that in a good way. You're going into the tunnel, and and it's an oncoming train. You see a light coming, and it's an oncoming train, as opposed to the light at the end just being sunlight in general. Yeah, that ain't gonna be fun. That ain't gonna be fun. So, that's gonna be intriguing, very intriguing. So we'll see what happens there with. Oh boy, yeah. Alex is asking now on the Twitch pitch. They're gonna have. I don't know. And the way that he phrases it, they're gonna have the guys in their little outfits doing the little Tamu pointy dance. I don't know if they're gonna have the I don't know if they're gonna have the 12s there. I really don't. If they look, let's put it this way. And to Bart's point, Bart's hoping Reveille's there, which would be really cool. If Reveille, well, and the thing about Texas A&M. Thing about Texas A&M is with Reveille, that if Reveille goes into a classroom and Reveille is, she's fed up, then you're done. If she leaves, class is over. Reveille, if Reveille is sitting in law 824. She looks at her watch and she's like, man, I'm hungry. And time to go to In-N-Out. And she leaves, class is over. Doesn't mean it doesn't matter if it's freshman, doesn't matter if you're law, doesn't matter if it's whatever. If Reveille is done with class is done. And I'm sure that there are some folks who are sitting there thinking like maybe the day before, the day before a final or something, or maybe of a final. What happens if it's a final exam? What happens if it's a final? That would be cool. It's a final that you hate. Reveille walks out of class in the middle of a final exam. Class over. Got to put it away. And even if you have an incredible disdain for Texas A&M University, the side of the helmet says ATM. If you have an incredible disdain for that university, the marching band is amazing. Yes, I know it's military precision and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if they're going to have the yell leaders there. I think the yell leaders might be a little out of place. But if Reveille was there, that'd be cool. If they had the band there at halftime, that'd be cool. That'd be pretty epic, actually. They gave Jimbo money. Alex says they've got Jimbo money. Yeah, they got oil money more than anything else. Maddie Cruz and the ones and twos joining us with Garreth Barker from SSA joining us in about 10 minutes. Maddie, what's on your mind?
Oh, nothing much. We just hanging out.
We just hanging out, she says.
We're hanging out. I'm here in Lilburn right now, actually, because we're doing some media. We're doing some media stuff for Decatur FC today. So I'm up here, and me and Jason are going to grab some stuff. We're preparing for this in-state Georgia rivalry match tomorrow where Decatur FC faces off against Georgia Impact.
Yep, we're going to have both coaches on in the 9 o'clock half hour. Yeah, have both coaches on in the 9 o'clock half hour to break things down in the WPSL. So that will be it'll be an adventure, and I'm looking forward to I think Inter Atlanta has a deal, 10% off if you wear your jersey wandering in the building. But yeah, it's going to be fun. A little over 1,800 showed up for the first match in the history of Decatur FC, the first home match. It would be very, very interesting to see how many folks show up for the encore, how many folks come down from down 575 on a Friday afternoon. Just make a day of it, honestly, because if you're going to leave anywhere close to game time, you're not going to get there at game time. Make a day of it. Like after lunch, if you're part of Impact, just come on down 575, make a day of it. Go hang out in the square in Decatur. Make a day of the whole thing.
I mean, I'm in Kennesaw, and I'm probably going to do that as well because my dad works up in that area. So I'm just going to go see him for a little bit before I then have to go to the stadium. So it works pretty well. It's pretty great.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I'm excited. I'll be there tomorrow. I'm very excited. I know I heard a lot of stuff about the first ones. I have to come, you know?
Yeah, you do. And so it'll be really interesting once again to see the encore. And we've seen what Decatur can do offensively, against Fire. They put 5 on the board, and it was a dominant showing. And what do you do next time out? How do you keep that momentum? And I think that's the fun part of all of this, especially in a sprint season like we have here in the WPSL. So now it should be an absolute adventure. Alex is making a point. I don't know if folks got to see this on the social medias, but apparently, from what I understand, from what I can gather from pictures and comments, the media game has re-sparked your involvement in local soccer. Am I wrong?
No, you are not wrong. You are not wrong at all. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It brought back something. Like I haven't played in so long, and so getting the chance to then play again, I was like, all right, I want to do it. So yeah, I joined a little co-ed team. A couple people in the Twitch pitch probably know what it is, but SDH is taking over. So
that is absolutely true. And Alex says, if it isn't my new Soccer in the Street sister/blood rival. So
blood rival is great.
Yeah. Alex ain't wasting no time. And speaking of wasting no time, it is time to go, and we go and catch up with our friends at SSA. So Garreth is working on Tom Coughlin time. Yeah, he's working on Tom Coughlin time. If you're 5 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, the door is closed and you can't come in. So it's time to, as Garreth properly hydrates, and that's the beauty of what I can see in the green room, is that Garrett's got to get ready for all this kind of stuff. And so now it's time to...
Forgive me if I have to, do a little Irish goodbye. I'm going to pull a Jarrett.
Go ahead. I'll do the goodbye. I'll do the hot tag. So come on in whenever you want to come in. Niko's at 10:30. Do your thing. All right. So we'll hot tag. Bring in Garreth Barker from SSA. Good morning, Garreth.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing all right. Wanted to catch up with you because it's a really busy weekend for you. But what I wanted to do in starting things off was discuss some news that came across the pike, a little bit ago. And I know that we're going to be spending a lot of time with what's going on overseas with Prem and Proper. There's a lot of news this morning, and we were going to talk about it after you're gone. But it ties into what's going on with you and SSA. You're undergoing a color change and an association that's going to be different. Very, very cool stuff. Tell me about it.
Okay, so our senior executive, Simon Davey, obviously had quite a distinguished playing and managerial career in England. And he knows and met and his colleagues with quite a senior person at Brentford Football Club. Simon's met with them on quite a number of times. They've been here, high-level representation. Simon's been over there. And it was something that he's looked at for quite a while now. And the ambition is to have, a one, at least the USL 1, and underpin that with the USL 2 and the respective academy programs. And hence the relationship that Simon's garnered with Brentford. which is exciting for us. I think that they probably see something in the market, and obviously for us, it's a tie-in with a Premier League club, and hopes and aspirations to have a really strong working relationship with those guys based on the contacts that Simon has at a very high level there.
So for those that don't know, how long did all of these conversations take? Any idea before it came from like day one until where it is now, where folks are seeing red now when they look at SSA?
I mean, there's certain things in there that I think are Simon's questions, really, and that may be something separate that you do with Simon.
Absolutely.
So I want to be very, very careful on that. I've learned a lesson in professional football in the past, and I don't know some of the answers as well. But I know that Simon has had the ambitions for this for years. This isn't weeks or months. This is years, and and along with that, then he's got plans and ambitions of a grander scale, just for the club, not just for the elite end, but also for the wider community, to build something that's a community hub, as it were. And that's the ambition, is to have all those levels, to have community engagement, to have a world-class facility, and to have one of the best franchises in the United States.
So when you look at what is going on there now at SSA, from day one when you walked in the door to where things are now, what has it been like for you to see the Southern Soccer Academy grow, not just in stature and in numbers and participation, but what has it been like to see SSA grow as a part of the footprint of what's going on here in the Southeast?
That's a good question. I mean, I've been here 3 years now. So when I came in, and you get here, and I don't want to sound disrespectful, but when I arrived, you only know a little bit about MLS and a tiny bit about USL because of the footballing footprint in England. So I came in, and it's been, I would say, year on year, 50% growth. We've added extra teams, extra academy teams. They were friendly fixtures. So just the under 20s now, we have competitive leagues for the U20 games, both on the ladies' side and the men's side. There's a potential expansion USL under that, or looking to expand that down through, 17s, etc. And the 20s also, when I first came in, was an under 20s. One of the suggestions that we discussed on the panel for that was having overage players to make it almost like a Premier League under 21s. So you bridge the gap between first team and that as well, pass that experience down. So that's grown. The USL 2 has grown massively. More clubs, far more professional. And I would say because of the time that some of those clubs have spent in there now, recruitment is better. I think players are better, teams are better, and the whole environment around it in the USL 2 is far better. And you've seen the expansion; it's exponential, it's huge, and I think that will continue to happen across all of the USL footprints. I think that for me, I think the next steps. It wouldn't surprise me if there was more clubs per state within the next 2 or 3 years. It really wouldn't.
It's a big weekend for you specifically, with Birmingham coming to town, and it's going to be their Out at Marathon on the weekend, 4:00 on the men's side.
Yep.
When you came into this season, what were your expectations when it came to on the field performance and trying to chase after as many rungs on the ladder and how many different things that you could get? What were your expectations coming into this season there in a very tough South Central division?
I think our take is slightly different on it maybe than other clubs. So if you look at last year, we had 16-year-olds playing USL 2. Stephen played, who moved to Atlanta United, Stephen Herlock. We had Thomas Klein play. And then we had U19s play. Caleb played, Geordie played, Chase played before they all went off to college. So for us, it's not just about the position within the league. We're also looking at a level of progression and providing that footpath through the club. So, for example, the first team trained with the under-20s 2 days ago on Tuesday. And straight off that, then, we're going to invite one of those 17, 18-year-old boys to come into training with the USL 2 with a mind to hopefully getting him involved. At the weekend, we're going to have, we're going to have 05s playing, and there's a chance that we're going to have an 06 in the lineup at the weekend as well. So for us, it's also looking at the points, but it's also looking at what we can provide as a viable footpath for the whole of the club. And when we built the performance pyramid, what we wanted to do over the course of sort of 5 years, was promote internal players rather than look at player migration. So, for example, we've got players this year that were in the MLS with Simon. They went through 4, 5, 6 years with Simon. They have been around the under-20s in the USL, played some minutes in the first team last year, gone off to university, come back to us this year as part of the SSA family, and gone back in again. So Caleb Johnson was with Simon, I think probably from under-10s all the way through 19s. Last year, played USL in his last year SSA. He played USL under-20s, won the Academy Cup with his team, played some minutes in the USL 2. He's gone to university, and he's then come back and he's already played in USL 2. So we have one eye on that process as well, of providing that. And we want to be competitive. We want points, but also keeping one eye on the fact that we want to show our membership that at a club, there's viability, that these players come all the way through the pathway. So that's something that's key for us, as well as being competitive, fielding competitive teams in all four of the strands, and see where that takes us in terms of tables at the end of the season.
Garreth Barker, the USL Sporting Director for the Southern Soccer Academy, dropping by here on Soccer's Morning Show. In the South Central Division, it's Asheville City, who is out like a house of fire right now. They've won all 4, and they've only given up 2 goals, and they've scored 16 in their first 4. Dothan United, who hit the ground running as a first-year side. Athens United came up and bit them last night at Clark Central. And you got you and Birmingham Legion, East Atlanta, and Tennessee SC. It's a part of this division. How difficult is it for you to assemble a squad knowing that this is a sprint? And I know that when you and I saw each other for the first match of the season, for the Dothan United match, you were still waiting for folks to come in to integrate. How difficult is a USL League Two season for someone who's never seen it?
It's ostensibly for us college players. That's what it is. It's college players. So we're waiting for college players to get in, to travel, to arrive. And you probably got this year, I think we had 3 days training before the first game, because you've got to get them in. You don't know what conditions some of those players are in, because the season was over. So it's pre-season, it's scrimmage, and you hope that when you confirm with them that, okay, you're in the squad, that they'll work on their own independently to turn up in peak physical condition. But then getting those players to play. We were 3 days in, and the first game, for the draw against Dothan here. But for us, also then still waiting. So 2 of the aforementioned players that have come through our system, they don't arrive in training until Monday. 2 SSA players. We've had a centre forward arrive this morning, actually, that we've been waiting on. And so that's tough. And then around that, you get the disappointment with the other players that you register, you pay the registrations for them, and you're all set. So you dismiss other offers from other players, and then they just don't turn up. So you have to accept that as part of it. And I've learned to accept that it's difficult when a player says they're coming and then they just don't turn up, because invariably you've said no to others. So you have to make sure you cover yourself positionally. But you have to accept that that's part of it.
This upcoming weekend, we mentioned Birmingham coming to town. What has Study Hall been like? And I imagine that Study Hall during league play, I mean, it's got to be fast and furious for you as well. It's like one game's done, one match is done. Oh, we've got maybe 2 days to figure out how to prepare for this next team. What's it like studying for Birmingham as they're coming to town?
Well, it's been easy because we played them last week.
There you go.
So we played them. We traveled down there to Spain High School with a double header, USLW and the men's, the USL 2. The ladies played really well. They drew. There was just a slight error at the end of the game when fatigue set in, which was a shame because I thought they played exceptionally well. So they got a point on the road, and we won 5-0. The issue with that is that Birmingham's a big club. It's got a big roster, and they're probably not going to bring the same team. So, we're setting up for a fresh challenge this week in training on the assumption that they're going to bring fresh players, maybe play a different way, and that we've got to pretty much ignore what they did, but concentrate on our strengths, our players, focus on what we did well, and see where that takes us. So it's the week is concentrating on us, thinking about us, and not so much about Birmingham, because as I say, they've got a huge roster, and the way they've scheduled it, I believe that they will bring probably a different group, a stronger group, and that's our preparation this week.
So for someone who has never been out to Marathon to see you play, any side, either side, could be W, could be League Two.
Yeah.
For someone who hasn't seen you on the road, how would you describe style of play and what you're looking to accomplish when you're out there playing in League Two? So if things are going well for SSA on the field, we are doing blank. How would you describe that?
I think once you get comfortable, you can settle into a pattern of play, and we're looking to play off the back line. We're looking to control the possession, but with the idea is that we want to go forward first, sideways second, backwards last. That has to be the mindset. It's not a point of possession for the sake of it and looking pretty. But I'm not averse to, if the opposition have got a high line, we'll go down the side and go over them. I am not averse to that whatsoever, because ultimately you've got to win games. It's about winning games. And first and foremost, so yes, we want to play. We want the players to enjoy it, but sometimes you can't do that. It depends on what the opposition do. If they're a press and it's aggressive and you can't play out, then don't try it. Don't take the risk. So it depends what the opposition do, how they play, how good they are, how good we are on the day, the surface that you're on. The quality of the surface affects what you can do as well. People think it doesn't, but it very much does. And but we want to play as much as we can, but keeping in mind that it's about getting points.
So then, last question for you. Go ahead and let everybody know what's going on there at SSA on the weekend, the times, how they can wander over. Cut the promo for me and let everybody know how they can come in the door on Saturday.
Perfect. So the men's team kick off at 4 p.m. The ladies are at 8 p.m. There is no charge to get into Marathon Park for the USL. It's free. So, come on down, get yourself here come and watch the warm-up, watch the teams, feel a little bit of the atmosphere, get down here for 3:15. Come and enjoy it. Concessions will be open. Jason will be down here doing a live broadcast. You can marry that up. You can listen to that online as you watch the game. We'll have PA going as well. It'll be a great day. Hopefully the weather will be fine. Just come in. There's no charge. Family-friendly atmosphere. Get the children in and come and enjoy maybe your first game of USL 2. Now, it's a great day because you want to come and watch the men. You can get here at 3:00. That kicks off at 4. You've got the rest of the evening to yourself. If you want to come for a slightly cooler event and an evening event and come and watch the girls, brilliant. Get here for 7. Temperatures dropped. Floodlights will be on. It'll look fantastic. We'll have live commentary. It'll have a great feel to it as an evening game. And our marvellous ladies team will kick off at 8 p.m. So it's a double header. If you want to stay for both, that's great. Why not? It'd be a long day, but we don't charge to get in. Come down. There's no charge. Come and enjoy it. Come and try it. And, and you might just find out that if you come, the kids come, the family come, you just have a wonderful occasion and enjoy the soccer, particularly for the kids. The stand is very tight, so it's probably 12 feet from the edge of the field, so you can get to see it, hear it, feel it. Be a marvelous occasion. So we welcome everybody. And as I say, there's no charge. We've got plenty of parking. So come on down.
Absolutely. And it's great that that SDH is a part of what's going on there at SSA this year.
It is.
I was there with the Dothan match, and we're all going to be all hands on deck to go see you this weekend. Sporting Director for the USL side of the Southern Soccer Academy, Garreth Barker. Garreth, thanks for coming by this morning. Stay dry, stay safe, and we will see you on the weekend, my friend. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, John. Take care. Goodbye, everybody.
There we go. Garreth Barker. He's going to go and continue to be hydrated. Bart says, I've been yelled at by parents in those stands a time or two. I think, yeah, that would not surprise me that you have. But no, it was fun. It was fun for me to go out there for the season opener on the men's side and see what's going on in USL League Two. It is a highly competitive division this season in the South Central. Asheville City, they're out like a house of fire. They've in their first 4 matches, they've scored 16. They've only given up 2. And remember, it's points per match average. Dothan, like I said, they got bit at Clark Central the other night. And so Athens puts up a big marker there. And I know that we're all looking at points right now and things like that. But it is a fight from 3 to 7 right now. Athens, SSA, Legion, East Atlanta, and Tennessee SC, they're all within 0.33 point, about 0.6 of a point right now, chasing after the 3 spot in the division. But yeah, Asheville City's off and running. They've won all 4, and their goal difference is through the roof. Dothan, they've done really well, and we've focused on them on the USL League Two show, the South Central Review. So we've seen how they grow. They had 5,000 folks for their home opener, the regular season home opener. They had 2,500 at the scrimmage, 5,000 at the season opener, the season home opener there at Rip Hughes Stadium, the big high school stadium that's there inside the city of Dothan. And so Dothan United, they've come out like a house of fire too, just from a marketing standpoint. They've done really well. But yeah, 3 through 7, you can put a blanket over all of them. Athens United, SSA, Legion, East Atlanta, Tennessee SC. If you ain't got nothing going on, make a day of it. Go out to Marathon at 4 and 8. It's the men at 4, the women at 8, and it's really fun. And so Bart knows what's going on. Bart's been there. He's been yelled at. He knows that environment. So, no, it's fun to see what's going on. And thanks to Garreth for dropping by this morning and let everybody know what's going on. And so, yeah, it'll be SDH and SSA hanging out together on Saturday. So very, very cool stuff there. So I guess technically that is opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. That's your QR code for those of you who are watching, however you're watching this morning. It could be on the Twitch. It could be on the 280-character app, or it could be on our YouTubes. And you've got all of that you can take care of and put in your folders. Use the code SoccerDownHere15 when you kick off your day with Kickoff Coffee. See what I did there? Soccer Down Here 15 gets you 15% off. They in turn take 10% reinvested into youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Housekeeping. Once again, mention that we're going to be catching up with the new head coach of the Marshall Islands women's national team. That'll be up on the weekend, and this is the scarf that you can use to help support the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation, both visually and financially. And thanks to our friends at Die Hard for helping us design this. And you can do it one of 2 ways. You can go on the Federation website, but then you're paying for their shipping, and then you can, I guess, consider that as a donation, especially if you do things locally. But it's $32 plus 5. If you want to ship it and have me do it, we can do that. If you want Abby to deliver it to you, or if you see me in person, it's just $32. Once again, it helps out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Very, very cool thing that we're doing. We're keeping an eye on the story. And as it continues to grow and evolve, it's more than just a soccer story. And so that's the scarf that we are using to help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. And that is very, very cool that they have let us be a part of sharing the story of the growth of the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. 32, if you see me in person, email me, email the show, DM me, DM the show, go in the Discord, fill out the form, choice D, all the above. And that way you can help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation and add more scarves to your background. So there you go. Very, very cool stuff there from our friends at the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation. Okay, where were we? We were talking about stuff in the Premier League. And like I said, Niko is going to be joining us at 10:30, and we'll talk about Major League Soccer and all of that stuff that is going on starting at 10:30, and he'll be here for the last half hour of the show. So there's a lot going on in the Premier League this morning, and there's a lot that is attached to, I guess, Premier League adjacent. You know, we get Euros and things like that. Scotland got smart, and they named Lewis Morgan to the national team roster for the Euros. So, smart move. What took you so long? Nicely done. You finally got Lewis Morgan on your roster. EPL clubs have voted to keep VAR. Why they were even thinking of ditching it, I have no idea. But they voted to keep VAR. 19-1 to keep it after Wolves' motion. And remember, we went over those 10 ideas. We went over the 10 ideas. And, some of them kind of made sense, but you're not going to scrap VAR. Come on now. And you didn't. It was 19-1. It was forced to vote. Premier League is pledging to improve. And once again, this is from our friends at Gordon Brunt at The Score. Premier League is pledging to improve the performance of the technology after VAR was heavily criticized throughout the 23-24 campaign. 23-24 campaign. Yes, Kefsey, absolutely true. Invited him years ago. Invited Lewis Morgan years ago. He just found it in the junk folder. Absolutely. Absolutely true. Heavily criticized throughout the 23-24 campaign amid a series of controversial decisions and mistakes. And we went through this with Bart. We went through the 10 points. Some of them were just absolutely ludicrous. And some of them come with growth. It's like the best example that I can give is if you watch something that is supposed to be a farce, and if it's done well, it's done quickly. Take the irony of what I'm pulling and describing it as you wish. But if you see a play, if you see a television show that has to be done very, very quickly, very, very, because the ideas are forcing you to think. If the momentum of the play of the show of what you're watching in front of you is slowed down because of the element, then it's not doing its job. The boss is active in the theater community here in the Atlanta area. And when she does comedy, she is always locked into a thought pattern that a dear friend of ours who is a director has said in these situations: act faster. If a show if its momentum is dragging, it's because you're not acting fast enough. And a lot of times with VAR, especially when it's new, and I'm taking Major League Soccer, putting it to the side because acting faster and looking for something are two different things. If you're not acting fast enough, the play's going to drag. And it's not going to be what you wanted it to be. With time and experience and individuals who are in these positions of VAR who, in theory, understand their place and know what they're doing, and don't try to re-ref, even though they do. What you're trying to impress upon them is act faster. That kind of a thing. You hope that with time that happens. That's where we are with, I think, VAR in the Premier League. They're trying to sit there and figure out, okay, am I doing this right? I mean, it's like, all right, let me think through this. No. Act faster. And that's one of the things. Just because you weren't acting fast enough, it was one of the 10 basic reasons that Wolves were like, no, we want to scrap VAR. No, you don't. You might want to, but you don't. Premier League pledging to improve the performance. Quote, and this is a statement. It's a standard statement of plaudits and platitudes. While VAR produces more accurate decision-making, it was agreed that improvement should be made for the benefit of the game and supporters. Wolves triggered the vote after submitting a resolution to decide on the future of it ahead of the 24-25 season. Wolves were the team most negatively impacted by VAR in the Premier League last season, according to ESPN's Dale Johnson. Failed to get support in the build-up to Thursday's annual general meeting, according to BBC. Clubs at the meeting reaffirmed intentions to introduce semi-automated offsides this fall, and the Premier League announced that in-game VAR announcements will take place this upcoming season. Well, mazel tov. Hopefully the microphone will work. And it won't sound like this when you're trying to make an announcement. Just saying. Just make sure that you can get something done like that. Once again, James Maddison out, cut from the Euro 2024 squad. Tudor left Lazio after 3 months. Igor Tudor, the Croat coach, ended his contract with Lazio after 3 months. Took over from Maurizio Sarri in mid-March. 1 league defeat, winning 5, drawing 3, finished 7th. Wednesday night, club thanked him for his work. According to the Italian press, which had forecast Tudor's departure earlier Wednesday, the former Juve player was at odds with his bosses over the composition of the current squad and transfer targets. He no longer wanted Matteo Guendouzi in the squad. Lazio are keen to keep him after a successful first season from the departure from Marseille. According to Gazzetta dello Sport, Lazio keen to replace Tudor with Marco Baroni, who's currently at Verona. Also interested in former player Sergio Conceição, who just left Porto and was tipped to join Marseille. So you got that. Other stuff in the Premier League this morning. Maguire's at the risk of missing out on the injury. He's trying to race back quickly. Don't know if he's going to make it. Brighton has put 31-year-old Fabian Hürzeler on their next manager's shortlist. He guided St. Pauli to promotion from Bundesliga B, rated as one of Europe's brightest talents. 31 years old. Hürzeler has made the Brighton final shortlist, according to The Telegraph, with Malmo's head coach Henrik Rydström, who's been one of the favorites for the post since De Zerbi left. Talks have also been held over a return for Graham Potter. And all 3 managers, according to The Telegraph, score highly on Brighton's famous data model of being able to work with and develop young talent. Hürzeler, born in Texas, I didn't know this, son of a Swiss father and a German mother, spent his playing days in the lower ranks of German football, became St. Pauli's youngest ever head coach, appointed age 29 in 2022, awarded his UEFA Pro license at 30 last April. Brighton's search for a head coach and interest in Hürzeler and Rydström has been held up by doubts over whether or not the club would be able to obtain a work permit for either. Determined to take their time to make the right appointment after Kieran McKenna opted to sign a new deal with Ipswich. Rydström's guided Malmo to the top of the Swedish top division season running from March to November, League Cup and a club double last year. Also considering a return for Potter, who's been now out of work after a year after being sacked by Chelsea. Would you bring Graham Potter back? Would you bring him back? The Arsenal fan who headbutted Roy Keane has been found guilty of assault, and he's supposed to pay a fine of £114. German police are warning England fans over their 10 Bombers chant. And they're telling England fans not to resemble a male body part. Don't be a Richard. That wasn't the term that they used. 3 Lions supporters have refused to stop performing the song, which mocks German casualties during the Second World War to the tune of 10 green bottles, despite facing a ban from team matches if they're caught doing so. Footage emerged earlier this week of it being sung during England's Euro 2024 warm-up win over Bosnia and Herzegovina at St. James Park. That began. Remember, the Euros begin on Sunday. Serbia in Gelsenkirchen, chief of police of which has admitted his officers would be powerless to take action against supporters merely for singing it. However, speaking amidst the 80th anniversary of the D-Day landings, the head of police cited a recent campaign in England by the Football Supporters Association that urged 3 Lions fans, don't be a Richard. He told the Telegraph, meaning the head of police, that's what I would say to them. Don't be a Richard. If they sing a song like this, I can't change it. It's not punishable in Germany. I hope that all the other peaceful and law-abiding fans say to them, stop it. I know, and all people in Germany know, there's a long-lasting sporting rivalry between England and Germany, but it's important for me to say it's only a sporting one. Our countries have been and remain allies for over 7 decades. Chief of Police did warn anyone caught performing a Nazi salute would be arrested. We have to tell them it's punishable and criminal in Germany. Members of the England Supporters Travel Club caught singing 10 German bombers have faced being banned from future matches since 2017, since it was sung in a friendly in Germany. That was despite Gareth Southgate condemning the song and saying it's unacceptable, completely unacceptable. Subsequent chanting denounced by the former chair of the Bomber Command Association, a veteran of conflicts in the Falklands, Belize, and the former Yugoslavia. So don't be a Richard, England fan. Don't be a Richard. When the Euros come, don't be a Richard. Nor should you. Manchester City's chairman, once again, he demands that to be judged on facts in the legal battle against the Premier League. Newcastle, however, reluctant to join Manchester City in that fight. Tom Morgan, Ben Rumsby over at the Telegraph. They're expected to take a neutral stance in other competition-wide financial discussions to avoid being caught in the crossfire of the dispute. Club sources also refuse to be drawn on whether Newcastle are the undisclosed team backing City at the landmark legal hearing next week. Another club known to be sympathetic in recent months to City's concerns around associated party transaction rules are Chelsea, Bowley Clearlake among the investors. Although it's not clear whether either of the teams are fully rallying around City next week. The London club are believed to have contributed to a statement in recent months calling for greater transparency on APT. Crystal Palace, meanwhile, is going to take a more direct aim at the UEFA coefficient system that's weighted in favor of clubs who qualify for Europe every year. Newcastle have secured major uplifts on sponsorship agreements under new ownership, including a £25 million a year front of the shirt deal with Saudi events company Selah. That increased deal came even though APT rules had already been initiated back in 2021 over the PIF takeover of Newcastle. At a Premier League shareholders meeting back in October of 21, Lee Charnley, who was then managing director at Newcastle, said to have read out a statement branding proposed changes to the existing rules unlawful, discriminatory, and prejudicial. Well, those are 3 heavy words. Club's new co-owner, Amanda Stavely, was then said to have sent a lengthy email to the other 19 top-flight sides, warning the proposed new rules were anti-competitive. 18 of the 20 clubs ultimately voted in favor of rules forcing anyone wanting to do a deal with a related party worth more than £1 million a year to seek prior approval from league execs. And so instead of Newcastle, it's now City who lead the arbitration dispute with the Premier League. You still have debates around the New Deal package with what's going on with the Championship. And teams in the Championship, and there are a half dozen of those, they are the ones who are looking at the idea of, why don't we just go ahead and blow out all the rules when it comes to finance? That'd be a great idea, wouldn't it? So you have teams who are in dangerous distance of screwing things up with their own finances, wanting to blow out the rules when it comes to the Championship and their spending. And a lot of the names that are associated with it are the ones that are close to wanting to be back in the Premier League. They were in the Premier League at one point over the last decade. And so now what they want to do is they want to suspend those rules and spend basically whatever they want to try and get back into the Premier League. They haven't been successful since, But that doesn't apparently stop them from wanting to figure out how they can try to spend more money, and it's mind-bending. And all of this stuff with the times, and I mean that both figuratively and literally, with what's going on involving Manchester City and their arguments with the Premier League. We mentioned the whole idea of this new deal that's associated with the EFL clubs, the £900 million EFL deal. All this civil war with City creating this suit. Senior Premier League club sources are also citing City's legal claim as one of the factors on the failure to agree on the deal that's attached to the EFL and the new $6.7 billion pound top-flight domestic broadcasting deal. Reluctant to commit extra funds to the EFL if the financial rules limiting spending in the Premier League are deemed unlawful. One prominent Premier League source said, if we have to spend more to even try to keep pace with clubs like City, we might need to hold on to that money. Some clubs may pursue compensation claims totaling more than £1 billion against the English champions if they're found guilty of any or all of the 115 Premier League charges for breach. Clubs have sought legal advice and could pursue what they call placing claims, meaning compensation for not finishing above City in the league. Remember that was a part of the discussion in the championship involving Derby and what was happening at the bottom of the Premier League if things were going to happen involving teams that were relegated, and if they stayed up because of claims, all this kind of financial mess. Separate hearing in November, by the way. So get your popcorn ready between now and then. You get 5 months. Appetite among some clubs for the independent tribunal hearing the case concerning the 115 charges to not only sanction City, but to apply rules that enable the league to expel a club from the membership. Clubs have no real desire to see City stripped of previous titles, but they do expect an appropriate level of punishment should there be a guilty verdict. Clubs are furious with City for launching the claim against the Premier League when, according to the Times, in November 2021, City initially approved recommended changes to the same associated party transaction rules are now claiming that are unlawful and anti-competitive. Kevin Plum, general counsel for the Prem, notified clubs of City's claim on March 1st. By mid-March, it had emerged they'd failed to agree on a new funding package for the EFL. It reported as many as 10 clubs opposed the new deal for lower divisions. And so today's requested reading, if you can find a way to get into it, is the deep dive that our friends at the Times have done involving what's going on with Manchester City. 6 clubs, by the way, need to find out how to avoid profit and sustainability rule breaches by June 30. So they have 24 days to figure it out. Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Everton, Forest, and Leicester. They've all got to sell players by June 30th to avoid PSR breach. Lyle Thomas and Rob Dorset over at Sky. It's a cutoff point for the financial year across the top flight where, once again, you can only lose £105 million over a 3-year period. Newcastle's in serious trouble. After 1 year, they were 2/3 of the way there. So they got to figure that out. Newcastle specifically, but 6 teams: Chelsea, Newcastle, Villa, Everton, Forest, and Leicester. Leicester, we knew that they probably would be facing their season starting with a points deduction. Forest, we know that Evangelos Marinakis likes to spend money on players, £250 million, bringing in 42 players. What's that gotten you? Not much. Everton, we've discussed Everton. They're now looking for anybody to buy them that's not named 777 Partners. Villa is an interesting one, but considering the level of investment and what they've been able to do and what they've been able to accomplish, not necessarily surprising at the end of the day. Chelsea and Newcastle, once again, we've talked about them before. Each club's magic number, according to Sky, remains a closely guarded secret. but you could have a mini transfer deadline day of its own on June 30. Something to look forward to in 24 days. Transfer window opens 16 days before that on June 14th, the starting date of the Euro. And although clubs want to avoid disrupting the tournament by brokering deals for competing players, interruption looks inevitable. So June 30 has become that proxy deadline, according to Sky. Everton deducted points, 8 overall. Forest docked 4. And so what Sky did is they extrapolated and figured out, okay, well, maybe who needs to go? Aston Villa, it might be Douglas Luiz. Villa want more than £50 million for him. Ollie Watkins could get you huge money, but you don't want to lose a guy like Ollie Watkins. Matty Cash on the list for folks like AC Milan. Get you a high fee. Conor Gallagher, obviously that's been a discussion from everybody who's a Chelsea fan here in the Twitch pitch. 4 potential homegrown sales. You're looking at $50 million for Gallagher. Chelsea only made £63 million of profit from £203 million of sales in 22-23. Matson, Broha, Chalobah on the outs, maybe. Adarabioyo on a free could be replacing Thiago Silva. Suggests that Chelsea can't spend and they're just going to have to do outbounds. Everton, Jared Branthwaite, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Amadou Onana, a part of all of that. Leicester, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall could be the name that you're looking at. Mavididi, Fatawu, James Justin, Wout Faes, Harry Suter for Leicester. Newcastle. Alex, cover your ears. You get the Alexander Isak discussion again. Darren Eales has suggested that a prized asset will need to be sold to stay in line with PSR. Could be Guimaraes, could be Isak. Newcastle would have to sell Isak for £40 million or more to generate a PSR profit. Anthony Gordon would have to be sold for 26. Guimaraes, 18. Sven Borman at 17, and so on and so on and so on. Miggy, by the way, could be sold for as little as 4 for there to be a positive amortization. I can't believe we're talking amortization here. Nottingham Forest, anybody with a hyphen. Callum Hudson-Odoi, Morgan Gibbs-White. Anthony Elanga, he has no hyphen, but he could be. Murillo, Danilo. Staring at all of those. So those are the 6 clubs. Those are some of the 6 clubs that you're staring at and who could be kicked out just to make sure that you're okay when it comes to PSR. The adventures continue. James Trafford has been cut from England's squad for the summer. Surprise inclusion for all the rosters, but at the same time, he has now been released as a part of what's going on. And one of the things that struck me this morning was looking at the idea of those sides that we were talking about in the championship that are in trouble as it is when it comes to their spending, yet they want to have the rules involving spending blown out. They want to have them done so they can continue to spend into a hole and create something that could be worse. And that should be a concern for everybody. The mere fact that you want to continue to spend, which got you into trouble in the first place, that you want the rules abandoned where you can continue to spend and put yourself in a worse shape as you try to work your way back into chasing after the dream of going back into the Premier League. To me, that seems a bit tone deaf. It's probably a little more than just tone deaf, but that's just me thinking out loud. The 6 clubs that were mentioned in the championship, like I said, they all have ties within the last decade to being in the Premier League. And you have folks that want to spend so voraciously that basically it's damn the torpedoes. I want to get back in the Premier League, and I'm going to do whatever I can to get back into the Premier League. And if that includes blowing up the rules of engagement, that includes blowing up the rules of engagement, which in and of itself is very disappointing when you think about that. Stian, no, we have not heard anything about Stian's injury. I would imagine after the match on the weekend with Charlotte, the guy's got a couple days off. And so they might just be getting back to full song when it comes to practice and such. We have not heard anything. My guess is they got a couple days off. And so they're just coming back in. Remember, Atlanta United doesn't have a match this weekend. So you could have just kind of casual folks drifting in, dropping in, what have you. And with the ideas of trying to figure out where things are when it comes to Atlanta United and their injuries, if there aren't really organized practices and things like that, or a whole lot of them, then it would be just a matter of letting things sort themselves out. But no, there has been no like word of the whole thing. No word on Stian. So I think, like I said, I think it was a couple days off and then they're just coming back in. But let me double check and see if folks are watching them practice or if they're still out of a practice situation. Nothing over the last couple days. Nothing over the last couple days involving Stian Gregerson. Nothing over the last couple days involving any possible maneuvers with folks. Nothing maneuverable. Nothing maneuverability wise. Ins, outs. Nothing. Although we did get a piece of a rumor, if you want to call it that, involving Atlanta United, and it involved Gremio, and the idea of looking out at a player at Gremio who is under contract for a couple of years now. He still has another couple of years that are attached to a contract. Hang on just a second. Let me see if it's Franco Cristaldo. And this comes from basically a Gremio specific reporter, Diego Torres Baje. 34,000. Wow, if he had 34 million followers, he'd be pretty solid. 34,000 followers on the 280 character app. Diego reports, and this is Google translated, Franco Cristaldo has been one of Gremio's main athletes in 2024. Excellent performance has aroused interest for some clubs. Athletes' agents have already received inquiries from 2 MLS clubs, one of them Atlanta United, and Club America. Cristaldo is very happy in Gremio, aims to win big titles. Contract with Gremio is until December of 2026. And Esportes da Sorte and also Thales Andre de Mello, who is another gremista, as they say, keeping an eye on this. But Franco Cristaldo was the word that came out yesterday as someone that Atlanta United is allegedly, possibly, probably keeping an eye on. So if we do our due diligence on Franco Cristaldo, mainly a midfielder for Gremio, born in Morón, Buenos Aires, Boca Juniors youth grad. 2014 first team debut, coming on as a second half sub for Lucho Acosta. Promoted to the main squad January 2015. Joined Elche on loan. So Boca Juniors loaned all the way through 2021. Then when he stuck with Huracan, and then he went from Huracan to Gremio. Elche, Rayo Vallecano, Defensa, San Martin, Central Cordoba, Huracan, all on loan from 2016 to 2021. 6 loans in 5 years. Then at Huracan in 2022, 33 matches, 13 goals. Gremio, since he's been there since 2023, 34 matches and 8 goals. 5'7" midfielder. Where's the number 10 for Gremio? So if we look at the player profile, market value, €8 million, according to our friends at Transfermarkt. And so looking at his numbers, the highest market value was December 11, 2023 at the €8 million number. Once again, contract expires at the end of 2026, end of the calendar year. He's an attacking mid, right-footed. Main position, attacking midfielder. He's also played second striker and central midfielder. So once again, looking at all of his statistics, we gave you the big numbers. Copa de la Liga, Liga de Profesional. So 91 matches with Huracan, 23 goals, 21 assists. Gremio, 78 matches, 19 goals, 15 assists. So that's according to our friends at Transfermarkt. But, yeah, keep an eye on Franco Cristaldo now, apparently. Because as we have said, the summer window could be crazy. Crazy, crazier, craziest. Alex, looking at Newcastle, says if they sell Isak, they've got to get more than 40. Crime would be someone paying the release clause for Bruno. That would be a steal for any club. Kefsi, looking at injuries. Kefsi has thrown all the crowns available into a lake. There's an offering to the Norse god to heal Stian. Yes, and I think that Kefsi, this might even be a bumper sticker. Get your guild to the gods, or a T-shirt. And a possible Firmino competition in the midfield could be Cristaldo. Well, and this is what we got into yesterday, was the idea that you are going to be seeing. You're going to be seeing a lot of folks that are going to be, I'm not going to necessarily say drifting in and out, but you are going to be seeing the possibility of a lot of folks attached to Atlanta United 2. So your sickoness involving Atlanta United 2 is going to be on full display. It's going to be on full display because you have that June window where you're going to be seeing probably a lot of names from Atlanta United too that are going to be attached to game day 20s and game day 18s. But now that we are thinking about it, let me double check and see if we have any kind of an update. If I could spell Yakamakis. So nothing at the moment. I can't see. about Georgis Giacomakis. I don't think if I could spell Georgis Giacomakis. Let's see. Since the 27th. So I don't think we have any updated updates. Now, of course, this is me trying to spell Giacomakis on the fly. So, once again, we saw the rumor a couple days ago about Giacomakis and what is up. Checking with our friends at Marsa, and this came out this morning. Eduardo Avila from Marsa, once again covering Liga MX. This is this morning, very early this morning. Giacomakis will be the new reinforcement for Cruz Azul, Liga MX club that has practically closed negotiations to acquire the services of the Greek striker, confirming La Máquina understands that it did not win the Liga MX title, largely due to lack of goals. Cruz Azul, this is a header inside the article, will sign for $10 million. During the previous Mexican soccer final, which La Máquina ended up losing the final against Club America, something became clear. After Uriel Antuna's goal in the 9th minute of the first leg, Anselmi's box was left empty in scores during the next 181 minutes official of the championship series. Ivan Alonso's management body began to work on reinforcements. And so then it goes back to the Fabrizio Romano tweet. Close to completing the deal, $10 million bid, negotiating on the installments, considered final details. Merlo, Romano, going to compete in the Aperture with Toro Fernandez, the forward for whom an amount of $10 million was also paid, injured throughout the tournament. So as of 5 hours ago, Eduardo Avila on the Twitters at Marsa, who doesn't have a whole lot of followers, by the way, is saying what he's saying about Georgis Giacomakis. So we'll see what happens. Not a whole lot of followers. So that's where we are with Gigi right now, at least in some circles. So like I said, Marsa, with a dude that doesn't have a whole lot of followers, is what you're staring at. And someone named Diego L 90MX, like I said, as I'm going down this rabbit hole, Diego L, opinions, analysis, personal, Diego L MX with one football. Georgis Giacomakis quoting Diego, who has a lot more followers than the guy from Marsa that we just clicked on. Is there an agreement? Yes. Personal terms arranged, 4 years till 2028. Is there an agreement with Atlanta? Yes. Cruz Azul will pay between 9.2 and 9.5 million with variables for the scorer. Is there an agreement on payment methods and times? No. This is the detail that is missing, and this is from Diego at One Football. Detail that's missing so that the negotiation can be closed. Cruz Azul presented a payment scheme that was a little more deferred than what Atlanta was looking for, which wants a minimum of 50% in an exhibition and the rest in a payment. So that Atlanta, according to Diego at One Football, is saying we'd like 50% of it up front, and then we can figure out the rest. Cruz Azul's looking for more of a budgeted plan than that. Positive feelings on both sides for an agreement. Late Tuesday night, that's what's missing for Giacomakis to get to Cruz Azul, according to sources in Mexico, is the installment plan. Atlanta United's looking for 50% up front, according to sources, and Cruz Azul would like for it to be more than 50%, less than 50% up front, and more budgeted along the way for somewhere between 9.2 and 9.5 million. And folks are sitting there and wondering about bringing in Montaño, Sanchez, and Giacomakis. If you're a fan of Cruz Azul and having all of those numbers spent for you, that will be the Palace intrigue. But once again, some sources, keeping an eye on Franco Cristaldo, a midfielder from Graham. Not interested in going at the moment. Jarrett, that's where we are, man.
Oh, wait, what happened?
Just trying to pour through the Franco Cristaldo rumor.
Oh, Jesus. I don't have the energy for this. Rumors calling rumors.
Well, yeah, and Gremio's going to, and then it went down the Giacomakis rabbit hole a little bit, and apparently some sources who actually have numbers attached to them are saying that, yes, it's been agreed to by the player. It's a 4-year deal. Yes, It's been, and the number looks like it's going to be between 9.2 and 9.5 million, but the installments and the upfront seem to be the difference here. Atlanta United, apparently, to some sources in Mexico, is saying they want 50% up front, and then we can figure out the installments. Cruz Azul wants more to be budgeted across and less than 50% up front. So that's where the stumbling block apparently allegedly
value of money, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, put up or shut up, Cruz Azul. You have the money. We know you do.
Yeah,
it's okay.
And as you and I have said several times, the summer window could be just as much dumb as it has been in the past. Dumb, stupid, dumb. Summer window. Definitely heading in that direction.
Yep.
It really could be stupid. Looking at, like I said, that's where we were this morning. We spent some time with our friends at SSA looking at USL League Two. Big weekend for them as Birmingham Legion comes to town on the boys, on the men's and the women's side on Saturday, 4 and 8 out at Marathon. Going through all the stuff in the Premier League where, hey, Wolves got shot down 19-1 on VAR going away. They were the only ones who voted this VAR. And it looks like 6 teams may have to have various players sold so they're not in violation of profit and sustainability rules. And none of them really are a surprise, except for maybe Aston Villa, who just kind of operates kind of quietly. But it looks like June 30, the end of the fiscal year, might be the new trade deadline day for half a dozen teams in the Premier League to try and get in line with profit and sustainability rules.
I can't wait to see all of this come crashing down, and then we are left there with a Manchester City facing 118 more charges.
Oh my God!
That we didn't know about, that gets dragged out into the courts, and somehow out of like pure anger and frustration, the EPL just snaps. And then finds Everton 10 more points.
Tom Russo and Ropes, their ears are burning now, by the way, after you said that. But yes, Unc says, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. And yes, it is the wimpy economic system. It is. It is without question. And Kefsy's like, yeah, we'll take half now. Gigi can go after the birth of his third child in 2030. So I have not, other stuff in the Twitch pitch this morning, I have not heard any kind of an update on Stian Gregersson's injury. Good, bad, ugly, and different. Have not heard anything.
Look, you couldn't really pick a better time you don't want anybody to get hurt, but there are worse times for your center back to get hurt than the 2-week international break. So just figured out as you go.
I'm trying to, Vincent Kompany has been appointed to Bayern Munich after a £10 million deal, £10 million deal with Burnley. That is now officially official. I'm trying to see what else is up and running this morning. Oh, by the way, this is a story that I kind of left on the side. And this probably could have been opening kickoff material if I had remembered to bring it in as opening kickoff material. FIFA has ruled that Emilio Insu, the top scorer at this year's AFCON, was never eligible to play for his country throughout his 11-year international career.
Elaborate.
In December 2013, FIFA said Insu was not eligible to play for Equatorial Guinea after he had made appearances for Spain's youth sides in an official competition, but he continued to play for Equatorial Guinea anyway. A new investigation was launched into his eligibility in March of last year, with the forward giving a 6-day deadline to respond. FIFA said, apparently this week, no position was received from the respondent, end quote. So, 16 months or 15 months, no response. And FIFA finally said, yeah, he didn't respond. A document published by FIFA this week detailed that Equatorial Guinea would be stripped of their World Cup qualification victories against Namibia and Liberia, with their opponents awarded a 3-goal victory. Both games ending because Insu scored and they won 1-0. He's been banned from international football for 6 months. And the Equatorial Guinean Federation, man, that's a mouthful. Equatorial Guinean Federation has been fined £131,000. It's based on him playing competitive matches for Spain's youth teams before featuring for Equatorial Guinea's senior side without having been granted permission for a change of association. In 2013, FIFA told the Equatorial Guinea Federation that the player apparently only acquired his nationality after having played in his first international match in an official competition. Earned his first 2 caps for the nation, found ineligible, defaulted 2 World Cup 2014 qualification matches. He'd played 26 matches for Spain to that point. Played for Mallorca, Middlesbrough, Birmingham, among others. Disciplinary committee explained it took action only in relation to the 2026 World Cup qualifiers because it's an active competition. So basically, dude played for the country back in 2013. He was ineligible then. Continued to play for the country while he was ineligible. Then helped them qualify for the World Cup in 2026, but was still ineligible 11 years later with no action taken until now. 11 years of being ineligible, helping qualify for 2 separate tournaments. First time he did it, they did it, and they qualified, and then they got wiped out from qualifying because he was ineligible. So Equatorial Guinea, I guess, just decided, you know what? Hey, it worked the first time. Maybe we'll just try it the second time and no one will notice. 11 years later, and dude did it a second time. They qualified a second time. And I don't know if somebody narked or what, but he was still ineligible. They qualified for the World Cup, and then he goes and someone went to FIFA and was like, hello, FIFA? It's still the same dude. And they finally got to it. 11 years later, it happened again. What are you people doing? He asks somewhat rhetorically. Good Lord. So that was what was going on with Emiliano Insu. That's what was going on.
Okay. Well. It's Africa, man. What do you want?
That's true.
We do that in America too, actually. We have players that like the U.S. The Villages was everyone's U.S. Open Cup darling for an extended period of time for some reason because they made one run. Then they got popped for using an ineligible player, and everybody was still falling over their feet to talk about the Villages.
Mm-hmm.
Oppa ass logo. Mm-hmm. Now they changed their name and their logo.
What are they, the Bravest or whatever?
Yeah, Brave SC, I think is what it is. Whatever.
Yes, basically.
Do not care.
But it's just like, bruh. I mean, literally, it happened once, and you decide, yeah, we'll do it again. We'll see if we get caught the second time. And I mean, it's like we sit there and we wonder about things, and then we wonder why things are a certain way, and then all we have to do is look at, like, oh, I don't know, the day before, and go, yeah, that's not a surprise. One other thing for Manchester City before we wait, Niko drops in. As we always say, when there's more than one reporter on a byline, it's bad news. Martin Ziegler, Matt Lawton over at the Times. Manchester City's rivals fear there will be political pressure on ministers to intervene over the 115 charges brought by the Premier League. The government has refused to disclose information on Foreign Office correspondence relating to the alleged breaches of the Premier League rules on the grounds it could damage the UK's relationship with the UAE. So now you have politicians that are somewhat concerned about the whole thing.
Well, I don't give a shit. Because no. We had an Olympics in Russia. We had an Olympics in Qatar. Is UAE going to be your Rubicon? Because at this point, the Rubicon's outside the gates of Rome, buddy. Where's Nick when I need him?
Yes.
This is the bridge too far for you.
Yeah.
This is the political or socioeconomic bridge that's just a little bit too far for you.
Mm-hmm.
Did the check not clear efficiently? Were there not enough zeros?
That could very well be.
Did the bank put a hold on the check that you tried to cash, man?
That could very well be. That'd be my guess.
Give me a break.
Exactly. It's the last half hour of the show. You know what that means. It means that it's time for our buddy Niko Moreno to come in and discuss everything going on in the world of Major League Soccer. And he gets an official intro, so here we go. Hi, Niko. We were laughing about eligibility and Manchester City and a bunch of things and FIFA waiting 15 months before they yelled at people before you came in this morning.
Oh, interesting. Well, you're going to laugh at me too because I just realized I left my coffee downstairs and we're already live, but it's okay. That is not what matters. What matters is that I am up. That was cup number 2 of the day, so we'll be all right. We'll hold on for at least 30 minutes to get that cup. But, we got a lot to talk about. I said, hey, you know what? Let me prepare. Let me get ready. And the sacrifice was my cup of coffee that's now downstairs.
Oh, man. So, fine. Since you have sacrificed, I will yield the floor to Jarrett for Jarrett's first question of the segment. So, go for it, Jarrett. What's on your mind?
All right, Niko. So now that we've hit the international window, I guess we'll keep this more centric with your world. When you were able to jump in, we want to really focus on what you got going out there. First half of the season's in the books. What's the general consensus with Seattle?
It's not good enough. And those are not my words. They're also Brian's. I asked them yesterday that exact same question. Not yesterday, I'm sorry. Tuesday. I asked them that. Just kind of looking at where you're at, where your team's at. You look at the table, the schedule ahead, tournaments that you're going to be in. And he just said those exact words. It's just not good enough. This is a team that has been plagued by injuries, and it's still not an excuse. It's a circumstance. I understand that. There were, in my opinion, wrong decisions made in the offseason. Not enough was done for a team that needed some more weapons, some more options up top. I love the fact that Seattle has a sustainable way of in a pipeline to bring up young players, and I praise them for that. And I love a lot of the players that are in this roster, but there are times where having some experience and some different options just are needed. There are times where if you are up 1-0 against RSL and you don't have a player that can hold the ball, get a foul, take the ball to the corner and try to freeze the game, and game management continues to escape you, and problems that seem systematic don't change. I think it does go back to a little bit of a leadership. It goes back a little bit to the tactics. It goes back to some of the decisions. So the reality of this team is that, unfortunately, it has now learned from their mistakes throughout the season. And my focus this Tuesday was to ask Brian, how do you change that? How do you change what's not working when you're this far into the season and those things continue to happen? And, he just said that there's no there's no reason to change the system. There's no reason to change the style of play. He just wants to continue working on it with drills. He kind of walked me through what he's doing to make sure that those things change. And I just got to hope that that's the case. I've said it once, twice, 3 times in this show. I really do believe that the ceiling of this team is just making it to the playoffs and maybe getting one game in the playoffs, getting past the first round. And then that's what you get. Maybe another way to save the season, to your question, could be putting all your eggs in the U.S. Open Cup basket and maybe trying to get a title there, right? I mean, you're far enough in the tournament. You got some MLS teams that are going to be eliminating each other, and maybe you played a really good couple of games and you have a title. So I do think that the potential is limited for this team, and they just have to figure out where to put all their investment, all their effort, all their resources to try to pull something that's going to be something to put your hat on for this Sounders team at the end of 2024.
But you got to go through Sacramento in that first step, though. When it
you
comes
do got to go to Sacramento, and I expect pretty heavy lineup, pretty close to a first-team lineup in that one. I don't think that Brian can go down there and have a rotated squad. He might have to sacrifice some MLS play, but I do think that the smartest thing to do, the smartest way to get a title, the most probable way to get a title, to have something to put your name on, would be just to go all out in that U.S. Open Cup. I'm not worried about Leagues Cup. MLS is going to be what it is. You'll figure it out. You're still kind of in contingency to get into the playoffs, and once you're in the playoffs, it's MLS. Anything can happen. So for right now, main focus, main objective should be U.S. Open Cup.
Jarrett, go for it. As he's thinking.
Yeah, sorry, my connection dropped a bit. Sorry, it dropped out a bit. But I guess so. Let's ask about the elephant in the room for us that kind of relates to your past. Gonzalo Pineda, the long-term manager of Atlanta United. What are the odds he's back in Seattle working with Brian, back in that familiar environment?
I mean, we asked Brian about that too, and he said, I have a really talented staff. There's no room for him here. He did say he was disappointed on, obviously, Gonzalo being fired, and he has more than confidence in Gonzalo as a coach and strategist to just bounce from this. I also personally talked to Gonzalo, and he seems to understand that this is a learning experience. And that's what I've been saying all along since I heard the news, since I was able to get on Soccer Bar and other shows. It's a learning experience for Gonzalo. He gains out of this, right? He will figure out what went wrong, what went right. We all know that being a coach, it's more than just understanding the game, more than knowing the X's and O's, if you will, attacking movements, ability to change concepts, all of that. There's other things to it. And I think he'll be a better coach after this one. Unfortunately for Atlanta, it didn't work out. I was sure that he was going to be able to at least be better than Frank de Boer and Heinze, and maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. The reality is that he did shoot below my expectation, below his own expectation, I'm sure. But one thing that you can't fault him, though, is the commitment, the passion, the effort, the willingness to fall on the sword for his players. So I praise him. I applaud him. I think that he did what he could with the cards that he was dealt. Atlanta, for your first job, is a lot of pressure. I do believe that Atlanta has been in constant adaptation, in constant evolution and changes, whether it's through the managerial or front office or players. I mean, there's just been a lot of changes throughout the time, and even throughout Pineda's time. Not that that's an excuse at all, but I do feel like, in general, Atlanta is still not working at their full potential, regardless of the blank checks and the resources, the wallet power, the fantastic fan base, the beautiful facilities. I still think that they're not quite there yet, but I am more than confident that they will, and that Garth Lagerway and Bocanegra will figure it out. I still don't know about the Bocanegra thing. I mean, it's pretty funny that we continue to focus on the coaching, right? And you continue to change coaches. Nothing seems to work. And if you find a common denominator, it might be Bocanegra. And, where is his part of it, right? I mean, how much are we judging Carlos Bocanegra? But at the end of the day, I feel like Gonzalo will figure it out. There's a lot of options for Atlanta. I do expect him to go out there and swing for the fences. I would go for Marcelo Gallardo personally. He would be as close as you can get to a Tata type of coach because of the relevance, because of his style of play, because of what he did with River Plate. But we'll see. I'm not going to tell you that they're going to go out here and try to find Pochettino or Klopp or all these guys that maybe people wish that they could get. But I think that there will be an extensive interview process, and hopefully Atlanta can figure it out.
How did Gonzo sound when you talked to him?
Optimistic, as he always does. He's someone that's strong-willed. He does not lack confidence. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about the particulars that we kind of got into, but all in all, it was just mainly he understood that this is the nature of the sport, and that this is just a learning chapter in his career. And I really do think that that's the case, and he's going to be a coach that will not lack offers, and that's in MLS, abroad. I think that he'll have plenty of options. If I'm a coach not doing my job, I'd be a little worried with a guy like Gonzalo out there prowling the hallways. I know that Gio's out there and there's other coaches, but Gonzalo has some quality of his own, some desire of his own.
Jarrett, what else is on your mind?
Yeah, I guess looking out at the rest of the West as well, who's been, as we reach this halfway point, I know we've talked about this before, I think, who's been your biggest surprise, either good or bad, out West that people may not, they need to pay better attention to?
Not to talk about the same teams like LA Galaxy, I'll go with Minnesota, man. They've really done it oddly, and I'm still not a believer. I'm still not buying that stock, baby. I'm still selling. But the fact that a coach can come in, change the soccer module, really put a sense of competition to the point that the best players are going to play. Doesn't matter if you're a DP, if you're not, if you just came in, if you're putting in the effort like Tanny is, and you got to sit a guy like Pookie, then so be it. If you got to get rid of Reynoso because he was a cancer in your organization, then so be it. And for you to be able to get so many results, they're a surprise. They surprised me against Atlanta. I mean, they're the ones that put the nail in the coffin of Gonzalo in a game that I thought Atlanta was dominating, but they were able to make some adjustments. They started pressing a lot higher. The effort was there consistently, and they turned that game around with a lot of will, a lot of power, and a lot of efficiency. So I think Minnesota, without a doubt, when I look at that standings, if you would have told me at the beginning of the year that no Reynoso, Pookie on the bench, and players not really working to the DP level, that Minnesota was going to be a top 3 team in the West, I tell you, you're crazy. So I do believe that whatever they're doing down there, it's working.
Who is your mid-season MVP?
Chicho Arango. I know that everybody wants to say Messi.
Yes.
And I know that's the
1000
number
yes.
one go, and he's poster child, and he's been unbelievable, unreal. I'm not taking anything away from Messi. Let me make that very clear. I do not want people on my DMs. You know what? Come to my DMs. I don't mind. Hit me up on Twitter. It's great. But at the end of the day, yes, Messi's been fantastic. He's been fabulous, and he has all the quality in the world. But Chicho Arango, to do what he's been doing with his RSL team from a leadership standpoint, from a polyfunctional, versatile way, whether it's at the 9, whether it's at the 10, the effort, the ability to handle pressure, because once you start doing as good as you do, and you become everybody's main target, right? What are we going to do in RSL? When we play RSL, let's just minimize Chicho Arango's ability to make a difference, and you're still able to do it consistently, and you do it from set pieces, and you do it from headers, and you do it in all kinds of ways. I just think it's unbelievable. John Rojas from Soccer Bar was telling us that there's a different relationship with players, that there was like some sort of wage that him and an understanding between Carlos Gomez and himself, where if Carlos Gomez would assist him on a play, Chicho would give him $80, and if he went vice versa, then he'd give him $100. And then once Pablo Mastroeni found out about it, he's like, "Hey, man, the whole team might not see it the same way. I mean, it's cute, I like it, it's awesome, but maybe everybody needs to be involved." And he's like, "Cool, man, it's open for everybody." So just little things about what Chicho Arango has done on and off the field, making my MVP. The goal contributions are there. He's the golden boot for right now. Do I think he's going to get it over Messi? Probably not, just because it's Messi's MLS. But do I think he deserves it? Absolutely. He's my halfway point MVP. And I don't see him slowing down. I see him getting this team very far. So he'd probably be my vote for MVP at the end of the season.
Jarrett, what do you think?
No, I'm very much in this camp, and it's not a slander on Messi. You can come into my DMs. I really don't care at this point. At this point, I'm on war. I'm in war mode anyway. Arango's been that guy for me. Pablo Mastroeni's been that guy. And speaking of which, as we continue superlatives, who's been your manager of the year so far?
Ooh, that's a tougher one because I do like to give coaches that maybe are working with less.
Is it your boy Ramsey? Is it your boy Ramsey?
No, I'm not there yet. Yeah, I mean, he came in a little late for that. You know what I mean? It's fine. I can see that. Sure, I can see that. Pablo would be my pick. I mean, quite honestly, I'm over here trying to make things not a cliche, but he'd probably be my go-to guy because of the adaptation, the difference, the involvement as a coach that he's had this season. Yeah. How it's not just about, and we just talked about this, not just about being a strategist and a guy that's preparing the teams, but a guy that can get guys bought in because you are an influencer in their ability to be better week to week, when you're a motivator. I think that talks miles. The way he has his players' backs, whether it's good results, bad results, in post games and pre-game conferences. I mean, he just says all the right things. But all in all, with this team, it may be surprising a lot of people that didn't see it coming. I think Pablo is that guy. I understand that Tata will probably get a lot of votes as well on that camp. But yeah, I think Pablo would probably be my pick at manager of the year so far.
All right. So then who's been overrated this season? Who's overrated at the halfway point?
Ooh, overrated.
Overrated, because we're talking underrated. So who's been overrated at this point of the year? Cherundolo, LAFC?
Maybe Cherundolo, but he has been doing some quality things on some of the adjustments he's made on his style of play, some decisions to sometimes play with everything you got in US Open Cup and MLS and just going for it all. I think that's really good. I don't want to say Greg Vanny either, because I feel like he has a lot of involvement in the positive aspect of that team. Man, that's a tough one. Yeah, you might got me with that one, because I mean, overrated would mean that the team's doing well, right? Because I mean, overrated in terms of name, I would like to say I got like Caleb Porter that has a huge ego, but he wouldn't come to the point. So yeah, I mean, maybe Cherundolo, maybe just because of what he has behind him. But it's tough, man. I really don't think I have one, man. I don't think I have one. Can you guys help me out with this one? Do you guys have any ideas?
I mean,
hey, shout out to Caleb Porter. New England is speed running the Caleb Porter experience. They skipped right over the winning a title part and went right to the disaster piece.
Oh man, maybe Jim Curtin. Maybe he's a guy that maybe is a little overrated for the results that he's getting with the team that he's gotten, with the process that he's. I mean, you've been there way too long to be where you're at right now. I'll go with Jim. Just make that my vote.
Yeah, it's actually, it's funny you say that. We talked about them early in the season. We have a friend of ours who's a Philly guy, and the consensus kind of was they ran it back for one more season, and it's one season too long to try and run it back for, and we're seeing the results of that.
Yeah, he got an extension, didn't he, as well? Yeah, so I think maybe Curtin would be that guy. That you guys really got my mental fluids going there, just making me sweat. I like it.
So let me ask you this one then. Let's keep it going. I'm going to get outside of MLS, because after last night, what is Mexico as a national team right now?
Wow.
Bielsa dropped a nuke on them last night.
Yeah, Lozano's under fire by everybody because of the decision to rotate as heavily as he did against Uruguay. I don't hate it. I just think that the issues are, again, it's so easy to just blame everything on the coach, but it's beyond him. And when you look at the players that he had yesterday, I mean, that's kind of what you got working with. It's interesting that we ask a coach, why does he keep calling Memo Ochoa? Why does he keep calling all these older players? He rotates, makes some changes, brings El Chino, El Toro, makes a change at goalkeeping, and then all of a sudden, how could he go with the lineup like that? It's terrible for our appearance. Look, man, you're playing against Uruguay. You were going to lose no matter what, especially this new version of Mexico. Honestly, there isn't, even in the A team, if you will, for the Mexican national team, there isn't that guy that's just incredible, that's going to take over the team. So I understand why Lozano is going to be looking for some other pieces to shine and try to figure it out. Everybody wants to talk about Santi Jimenez. He's got to be playing. He will play. The coach already knows what he can provide. Let's give other guys an opportunity, especially when there's very little to pick from. And again, that's the biggest problem for Mexico, is the lack of talent, the lack of players out broad, shining. Not that that's the only way a national team can function, but that's something that does help you. When players are abroad, it means that they're quality. It means that they've, kind of upped their value, and it helps you. Mexico just doesn't have that right now. So when you're going against Nunes and Betancourt, I mean, man, you're ass out of luck. I mean, it's quite and simple. And that game was atrocious. I mean, plain and simple, man. It was just, you were overwhelmed. I love that Bielsa kind of gave Jimmy a hand. It was like, oh, well, it's okay to just have bad results early, in friendlies like this, and they're a hard team to play. No, they were not hard to play. They got run out of that park, and it wasn't even close, man.
I mean, it was Rangel Orozco Guzman, Arteaga, Garcia, Orbelin Pineda, Beltran, Edson Alvarez, Guillermo Martinez, Huerta, and Alvarado were your starters. He comes in with subs: Romo, Jimenez, Rodriguez, Quinones, Uriel Antuna, and Alexis Vega, and he still had 9 other dudes that he could have pulled from, and nothing worked.
Nothing worked, man. But and again, I mean, people wanted to see Chino Huerta out there. He did okay. People wanted to see Garcia out there. He got burned a couple of times. Arteaga, that was the weakest side for Mexico. I mean, everything that went well for Uruguay went out the right side. But sometimes you got to see players. Orbelín Pineda is a guy that's been in the stratosphere. Edgar Alvarez was supposed to be one of your main guys and one of your starters. He had a bad game. He had a terrible game. He was the cause of, I think, the second goal on a quick counter. Mexico had their chances. They put a ball in the post. They had a couple of breakthroughs. They just didn't have the quality in this one. But again, this is not surprising to me. And again, even if they had their A team, maybe a 3-0. I mean, they just have not been the Mexico of old. I've been saying this for 2 years. They've been on a huge decline that is getting ready to hit rock bottom. And people continue to blame the coach. No, it should have been Pachuca's coach, Almada. It should have been Almada. That should have been the coach. Or, let's go ahead and bring in one of the old guys for Mexico, Aguirre. He'll figure it out. No, it's not the coaching. Is the talent pool? Is the federation? Is the problems of having no pipeline to help your youth programs go into your first team, your senior team? That's the issue with Mexico. It has nothing to do with the coach. Klopp couldn't figure it out in Mexico. That's not where the issue lies.
Dude, they're still mad at Tata.
They're still mad at Tata. I mean, come on, man. Come on. You cannot be that blind, right? I mean, the issues are up top. They're not the coaching.
I mean, you said it is not the Mexico of old. It is just Mexico old. I mean,
exactly. Absolutely.
That when it comes to Copa, since we're on this track, when it comes to Copa, what are you expecting from El Tri in Copa?
I think they're going to flame out. Unfortunately, I do. And I feel like it'd probably be good for them to figure out their issues. But I understand that they think that they have an easy group. I think it's Venezuela, Ecuador, and Jamaica. Something along those lines.
If Andre Blake is in net for Jamaica, that ain't no easy group.
Jamaica's been giving trouble to Mexico for a very long time, and Ecuador is it's a quality team. And I don't know if you want to check those groups for me, but I'm pretty sure that's it. Venezuela also has a golden generation. I think that there'll be trouble. And again, the issues lie within their own problems in Mexico. You know, Luis Romo is not doing great. Alexis Vega is a guy that has kind of peaked, or he seems like he's peaked. Santiago Jimenez, I feel like he gets way too much hype for the player that he is, respectfully, of course. Antuna is a guy that also has a lot of limitations. This Mexican team just doesn't have that X factor, the difference maker. They just don't have him anymore.
I mean, it's just, yeah, you're right. Group B, Ecuador, Jamaica, Mexico, Venezuela. Go for it, Jared.
So this one actually just dropping like 30 minutes ago. Sources tell the Dispatch that Tim Bezbachenko is close to signing a deal for a new job with Black Knights football. AFC Bournemouth's a part of their holdings.
The Bill Foley group, yeah.
So Isatala would take over in those situations if that's the case, but hey, the juggernaut of MLS. Look, this is like a thing, though. Like when you've built a monster, people come start picking your parts apart.
Mm-hmm.
That is exactly it, man. And going back to Copa in general, man, I mean, I think the U.S. has a better chance of at least shaking the ground, at least turning some heads. I'm very interested about this friendly against Colombia here on Saturday, just to see how it plays out, how Greg sets up, and how he figures out the lack of Serginho Dest. Does he change formations? Does he maybe go with wingbacks in this one in Colombia with a pretty strong call-up? I think Nestor is trying to figure out the final tweaks to what he's going to bring to Copa America. There was a couple of surprises there with Uribe and Sebastian Gomez. Everybody else is the main team. Borja right now, a guy that was rumored to go to Austin at one point this season. He's been killing it at River Plate. So he gets a call up in this one, and maybe he will take that lead as one of the nines. I still think it's Cordova, but I think that this game, US-Colombia, it's going to be a good test for both national teams. Colombia's on a hot streak, 18 games undefeated. They've been unreal, to be quite honest. But this friendly, I feel like it's going to be more interesting than people think.
Yeah, I know that Mexico and Brazil is going to be interesting in College Station. 3 minutes ago, it's officially official, apparently. Chucky Lozano to San Diego.
Oh, very nice. Yes, we were waiting for those news. We have that in our rundown for Soccer Bar. That's an interesting one, man. I really that's another player that has had a shorter tenure in Europe for Mexico than I thought. Something he's under-delivered for the potential that he essentially had, but it's a huge win for MLS. It's a young player, extremely relevant, very talented. He's going to kill in sales for the Mexican fan base. He's the guy that you want, very much like Carlos Vela was at one point for LAFC. You're getting the exact same guy in Lozano, maybe younger, maybe more in his prime even. So yeah, it's a good move. San Diego starting off with the swing, and they're connecting. This is a good first start for San Diego.
All right, so what's going on with Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports? I know you got a jet from us to head to the other one.
Yeah, I definitely will be talking a little bit about, of course, the signing of Chucky Lozano. We're going to be talking, we're going to get really deep into USP's national team, what we could potentially see against Colombia. Will absolutely devour the loss and the franticness behind Mexico's loss and people calling it a debacle and some craziness from people. We're going to break it all down at Soccer Bar here in about an hour. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming short, reduced MLS games that are coming up. The fact that Seattle goes to Sporting Kansas City, a place where a lot of things have happened that they're even when they're bad, it seems like sometimes Seattle throws them a lifeline. And if Seattle does that, I mean, that is going to be real tough. We'll talk about the Seattle Sounders going into this game. Pedro de la Vega still day-to-day. I don't expect them to make the trip. So how does that come out for the team? Leo Chu is back, and we'll talk a little bit about that, his health, what he can provide. So a little bit of everything here in Soccer Bar at Pulso Sports. I should be in training about 11 o'clock where the team is going to train and travel. So it should be a short one, but you can find their voices from Brian Smetzer more than likely, maybe Christian Roldan, birthday boy this week. So go ahead and check that out.
All right, go get your coffee and get ready for the rest of your busy day. As always, my friend, thanks for dropping by on Thursdays. We will see you next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Take care, man.
That is Niko Moreno, everybody. And Niko's going to go get his cup of coffee and get ready for Soccer Bar and Pulso Sports. You brought up the Tim Bezbatchenko news from the Columbus Dispatch. And Black Knight Holdings is Bournemouth and everything else under the Bill Foley umbrella. I don't think he's going to be helping out with the Vegas Golden Knights, but you never know. But Tim Bezbatchenko getting that boost up to the next challenge for him, possibly, probably, allegedly, possibly now. Very interesting times in Columbus if this is to be the case.
No, I agree. And it's Niko would know as well as anybody that when you get to the top of the mountain, people start the vultures circle. Mm-hmm. And vultures carries a connotation here, but it's not always bad. What I mean by that is people start trying to pick off pieces of what you have built. Seattle had it happen. Like they lost was it their president of operations that left, or one of their higher ups that wasn't Garth left. Mm-hmm. Garth left. Gonzalo Pineda was the top assistant in MLS. Was that he was that dude in everybody's eyes when Atlanta grabbed him. When you have built something like this, you're going to have pieces taken off of it.
Mm-hmm.
Just the nature of it.
I have the release from San Diego FC, and I'm trying to count the number of paragraphs here. Officially going to be introduced.
Can you tell them it's a release, not a Faulkner book?
It is a Faulkner book. Officially going to introduce Lozano to media and fans in San Diego Thursday, June 13th. It's going to be a press conference at Snapdragon, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, Fan Fest, and public presentation at San Diego's iconic venue, Rady Shell at Jacobs Park, located on the ground of the Embarcadero Marina Park South at 7 o'clock local time. And the PM side, additional details about the events will be announced separately. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 paragraph release from San Diego FC about Chucky Lozano. And by the way, he is not the first signing in club history. He joins keeper Duran Furi, forward Marcus Ingevartsen, and midfielder Jeppe Tverskov. So he's
I always love it when it's a random keeper that's your first ever signing, because never forget, your first signing here was Alex Tambakis.
Correct. Duran Furi. I've never heard of any of these dudes, short of Chucky Lozano. So he's a keeper for Orange County. That might be why. And he spent some time with the men's youth national team. So Duran Furi is 17, and that's why he spent time with the youth national team. He's U17s, 5 appearances. And so 17-year-old keeper Duran Furi, that would be why. He's 17 years old, John. That would be why you haven't heard of him. And Marcus Ingevartsen and midfielder Jeppe Tverskov. So he's the fourth signing. DP, 4-year contract through the end of the 28 season with 2 option years, effective New Year's Day of 2025. So, currently at PSV Eindhoven, and photos and video are available further down the release. So Chucky Lozano officially official as out the door eventually at PSV Eindhoven, and he'll be the 4th player in the history of San Diego FC. Harry Maguire, Jack Grealish, James Madison, Curtis Jones, Gerald Quansah, James Trafford, and it looks like Jared Branthwaite are going to be the names not making the final Euro squad for England, according to David Ornstein, Matt Law et al. For the upcoming Euros that are coming up in short order. Jared, any other thoughts before we get out of here on a Thursday?
Yeah, Scotland finally paid attention to MLS, the jerks that they are. Lewis Morgan got called into Scotland. Lennon Dykes is out with injury, which sucks because, again, I don't know if it's still up. The Athletic, I think it was, or somebody had a really good breakdown of how all the teams play a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And Scotland's is pretty much the same. Like, Steve Clark is not going to change much. It's more structured and defensive. Get forward when you can. Create overloads because you run. Scotland is going to do what Atlanta did last year. At times when if you have like Kieran Tierney and Robertson healthy, they're going to do the same thing Atlanta did when they would put Caleb Wiley and Andrew Gutman on the left side together. You would have your left-sided center back and your left fullback create those overloads, and everything rotates to accommodate for that. You need that big body striker there, and then John McGinn to make things happen magically. But Lewis Morgan finally getting called into Scotland. Call in Ryan Gould while you're at it, boys, because he's had a great start of the season for Vancouver. But Scotland likes to pretend that MLS doesn't exist because in some weird way, Scotland fans have already decided that they have a vendetta with MLS because there's those similarities between the SPFL and MLS in terms of it's not entirely different in terms of spending at different areas of it.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about junk mail folders for a second.
Well, no. So good for Lewis Morgan, who is healthy and putting up numbers. And I don't know that you would have been able to keep him given what you've done, Miami, but it's still very weird that you just let him go. And if I could go back in time, I would sneak into the offices, hijack someone's laptop, and make sure that Lewis Morgan ended up in Atlanta.
There you go. Dibs, Lewis Morgan. Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll be back at it again, 9:05 tomorrow morning. First half hour, we're going to talk to the head coaches of Decatur FC and Georgia Impact and get you ready for that big matchup Friday night over at Decatur High School in the WPSL. And then we will take care of all of the other pieces of business that are going on to get you ready for the weekend. All of the matches, all of the divisions, all the stuff. 4 matchups in Major League Soccer, because you can. Fix your fantasy teams appropriately. And I did, and I had $14 million left over under the cap, even maxing out with all of the positions and all the players. So weekend whip around patent pending trademark coming at about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. And once again, previewing WPSL ahead of time. It's going to be a very busy weekend across the board for all of us here. And we hope it will be a safe one and a busy one for you. But we got to get there first. So we'll be back in a little less than 22 hours to break everything down. Jarrett, send us home.
Mucho platio.
What he said. Played safe, everybody. See you in less than 22.